British afternoon tea is often associated with elegance, refinement, and social tradition. While it may appear to be a simple social meal, the ritual of afternoon tea reflects specific historical and cultural developments in Europe that differ significantly from many tea traditions in East Asia. Afternoon tea typically begins with the preparation of the tea itself. Black teas, such as Assam, like this one, are commonly used. Boiling water is poured over the loose-leaf tea and allowed to steep for several minutes. This produces a strong infusion. After the tea is done steeping, the tea is then poured into porcelain teacups and often served with sugar, milk, or cream. Unlike tea traditions that focus primarily on the brewing process itself, British afternoon tea places equal emphasis on the foods that accompany the tea. It is usually served alongside tiered trays of small, carefully arranged foods. These often include finger sandwiches, scones with jam, and delicate pastries or cakes. The small portions and decorative arrangements communicate attention to etiquette and refinement. Participants usually eat sandwiches first, followed by the scones, and lastly the sweets, and tea is poured throughout the meal. Afternoon tea emphasizes leisure and social interaction. Traditionally, it occurs in the mid-afternoon, when members of upper classes historically had the freedom to pause their daily activities and gather for conversation and light refreshments. While tea traditions in East Asia often emphasize communal ritual and shared experience, the development of tea culture in Great Britain took a very different social direction. By the 19th century, tea had become closely associated with class identity and social hierarchy. During the Victorian era, the ritual of afternoon tea became strongly linked with the upper classes and social elites. It was no longer simply about drinking tea, but about displaying refinement, etiquette, and social status. Tea quickly became a marker of class privilege. The ability to pause during the afternoon for a structured social ritual required both leisure time and access to luxury foods. For the working classes, who often had long labor hours and fewer resources, this type of tea service was largely inaccessible. Additionally, the ingredients that define British afternoon tea are deeply tied to global systems of empire and trade. Tea was imported through colonial networks like the East India Trading Company, and the sugar commonly added to tea and desserts was produced on Caribbean plantations that relied on slave labor. As a result, what appears to be a refined social ritual is deeply connected to systems of colonial power, economic expansion, and human exploitation. When we compare this history alongside tea traditions in Eastern Asia, the contrast is clear. The same beverage that symbolizes harmony and shared ritual in some cultures became, in others, a marker of hierarchy, status, and imperial wealth. In this way, British afternoon tea illustrates how one beverage can take on very different cultural meanings depending on the historical and social context in which it develops. In Great Britain, tea became embedded in systems of class structure, imperial trade, and social etiquette. What began as an imported commodity evolved into a ritual that communicated status. Although British afternoon tea's origins were tied to class hierarchy and imperial trade, this tradition continues to endure not only in Britain but throughout the Western world as a cultural tradition that reflects both the nation's historical relationship with tea and the enduring social value placed on status and refinement.